Elite Facts presents
50 Random Facts About Money.
1.
The Romans made their coins in the temple of Juno Moneta, the goddess of marriage. The words mint and money are derived from the name Moneta.
2.
The largest U.S. bill ever in circulation was the $10,000 bill, which was issued until 1945. As of May 30th, 2009, only 336 of these large bills are known to exist.
3.
Though discontinued, technically, high-denomination bills, $500, $1,000, $10,000, and $100,000, are still legal tender. They were last printed in 1945 and discontinued by July 14, 1969.
4.
It was until 1963 that the motto "In God We Trust" appeared on U.S. paper money.
5.
Romans were the first to stamp the image of a living person on a coin. After winning in the war, Julius Caesar featured his portrait on a coin in 44 BC.
6.
A stack of single-dollar bills 1 mile high would be worth $14.5 million.
7.
In 1909, Abraham Lincoln became the first American to be pictured on an American coin, and the designer, Victor David Brenner, put his initials, VDB, at the base of the portrait on Lincoln's arm.
8.
During the Middle Ages, knights did not carry cash around because of robbers. Instead, knights wore special rings. When a knight stayed at an inn, for example, he would stamp the bill with his ring. The innkeeper then took the stamped bill to the knight's castle to be paid.
9.
The U.S. Secret Service was originally created on July 5, 1865, during the Civil War to fight counterfeiting, which was a huge problem. At the end of the war, between 1/3 and 1/2 of all paper currency in circulation was counterfeit.
10.
According to the U.S. Bureau of Engraving and Printing, 37 million notes roll off the presses per day. Almost half are $1 bills. Almost 95% of the notes printed each year are used to replace notes already in circulation.
11.
The bird pictured on the American silver dollar was a real eagle named Peter. From 1830 to 1836, people who worked at the United States Mint adopted him and used him as a model for the drawings. When he died after getting his wing injured in the coining press, they stuffed him, and he's still on display in the lobby of the Mint.
12.
In Old English, pig was a type of clay that was used to make jars and dishes that could hold money, and the word eventually morphed into piggy bank.
13.
Money engravers work with incredible precision, but they also have to illustrate backwards, and the design they cut into the plates is a mirror image of what it will look like when it's printed. It takes 12 to 15 years of training to become an engraver.
14.
Modern coin counting machines can count 2,500 coins a minute, and a banknote counting machine can tally you up to 100 bills in 4 seconds. It can also tell you what denomination they are and if they're fake.
15.
The word bankrupt is from the Italian bancarotta, literally broken bench. And in the years of early banking, people who exchanged, stored, or lent money did their business in the public marketplace at a bench. And if the man at the bench or the banker ran out of money, his bench would be broken.
16.
There are more than 1.6 million ATMs in the world, and Friday is the most popular day at an ATM. The average amount withdrawn from an ATM is $80.
17.
People in Iceland use credit cards and debit cards more than any other country in the world. 70% of all consumer business in Iceland is done with plastic, compared to 39% in North America.
18.
The ancient Chinese cut out the hearts of anyone who was caught faking the emperor's paper money. England holds the record for executing counterfeiters, and in 1817 the British hanged 313 people for making and passing fake banknotes.
19.
Governments will sometimes infuse counterfeit money into the enemy's currency to wreck their financial system, and the Germans did it to England in World War II, and the Americans did it to the Japanese as well.
20.
The worst market crash in the U.S. lasted for 2 years, from 1930 to 1932, and it helped to spawn the Great Depression. $1,000 invested in September of 1929 was worth just $108.14 in July of 1932.
21.
In 1946, the government of Hungary printed the highest denomination ever created. It printed a banknote worth 100 quintillion pengos. 100 quintillion looks like this. That's 20 zeros.
22.
The two facilities of engraving and printing, one in Fort Worth, Texas, and one in Washington, D.C., together use 9.7 tons of ink per day.
23.
1 million $1 bills would weigh 2,040.8 pounds, and $1 million in $100 bills would weigh only 20.4 pounds.
24.
There have been many unusual forms of money throughout history, such as the cowrie, which is the shell of a sea snail, and they were colorful and durable, which made them popular money with civilizations around the world, and the cowrie was the longest and most widely used money in history.
25.
Early Romans used salt as a form of money, and the word salary comes from sal, which means salt in Latin.
26.
The islanders of the Pacific used donut-shaped stones as money, and some stones were as large as 12 feet across. Try putting that in your purse.
27.
The Philadelphia Mint has the capacity to make 1.8 million coins an hour, 32 million coins per day, and 13.5 billion coins every year. The Philadelphia facility is the largest mint in the world.
28.
The word buck, as a reference to money, dates back to days before paper, when Americans traded animal and elk bucks for goods and services.
29.
The Office of Currency Standards will replace damaged money if a person can present 51% of the note to officials, and every year the U.S. Treasury handles around 30,000 claims and redeems mutilated currency valued at over $30 million.
30.
There is more money printed from Monopoly each year than there is real money from around the world, and the amount of money in a Monopoly game adds up to $15,140.
31.
The only woman to have ever appeared on a U.S. note is Martha Washington. She was on the $1 silver certificate in 1886 and 1891, and on the back of the $1 silver certificate in 1896.
32.
No African Americans have appeared on paper money. However, in the 1940s, coins were created with the images of George Washington Carver and Booker T. Washington, and they were followed by the release of a Jackie Robinson coin.
33.
The country with the worst inflation in the world is Zimbabwe, and in 2008 it experienced 6.5 sextillion% inflation.
34.
One of the most expensive coins in the world is the 1913 Liberty Head nickel. One sold in 2010 for $3,737,500. And it's so rare because it was printed by a rogue mint employee who made only 5 of the coins.
35.
The U.S. Depository at Fort Knox was built in 1936, and it holds 4,578 metric tons of gold. The New York Fed is even bigger with 7,000 metric tons of gold. Together, they hold 7.5% of all the gold ever refined.
36.
The oldest money ever found are small pieces of obsidian that were used in Turkey as far back as 12,000 BC.
37.
If a person had 10 billion in $1 notes and spent one every second of the day, it would still take 317 years to spend all the money.
38.
The Chinese invented paper money in the 9th century AD, and its original name was flying money because it could so easily blow away in the wind. They only used it briefly. The first time paper money was considered used was in the 18th century by the French.
39.
Over 170 different currencies are used all around the world today.
40.
The Spanish word peso means weight. In English, it was known as a piece of 8.
41.
Chain cent was the first coin to be minted and circulated in the USA in 1793. It was struck only during that year.
42.
The earliest banks were ancient religious temples where people stored grain or precious metals that they used as money.
43.
U.S. currency is actually fabric and not paper. It's composed of 25% linen and 75% cotton and has tiny red and blue synthetic fibers of different lengths evenly distributed throughout. And if it were paper, it would easily fall apart.
44.
The U.S. Bureau of Engraving and Printing estimates that it would take 4,000 double folds forward and then backward before a bill will tear.
45.
The U.S. officially adopted the dollar as its unit of currency in 1785.
46.
The largest bill ever printed was a $100,000 gold certificate issued in 1934. They were never circulated among the general public. Rather, they were used for transactions between Federal Reserve banks. President Woodrow Wilson was depicted on that bill.
47.
The all-seeing eye that sits on top of the pyramid on dollar bills is a symbol of divine providence. An image of the children of Israel in the wilderness was also considered.
48.
The currency most traded around the world is the U.S. dollar. The other most heavily traded currencies are the euro, the Japanese yen, and the British sterling.
49.
Credit cards were first used in the 1920s, and hotels were the first to offer cards to their customers to pay for their hotel stays. Soon after, department stores and gas companies offered their own cards as well. All of these cards, however, could only be used at the businesses that issued them. Then the diner card arrived in the 1950s and could be used at different restaurants and hotels. Then in 1951, some banks began issuing credit cards that could be used at all the different places.
50.
Walter Kavanaugh of California is known as Mr. Plastic Fantastic. With more than 13,000 credit cards, he has the largest collection in the world. He keeps his cards in the world's largest wallet, which is 250 feet long.
Don't forget to like us and subscribe for more elite facts.